Hey everyone, welcome to the Darksliders podcast. This is episode 6 with Doug and Brad.
Hi.
We're going to talk through a bunch of stuff this week, some of the games we're playing, some things we're excited about coming up here. We put out a short episode this past Wednesday, I think it was, maybe Thursday, I don't remember what day it went up, but giving a little bit of our first impressions of Bloodborne. So right off the top here, we're going to spend a little bit of time going back to that game. So if you haven't listened to that, some of our thoughts are in there, and that was kind of my first hour or two with the game and my thoughts there. So some of the things we're going to talk about here up front kind of go back to that. So you can go back and listen to it or not, up to you. But so this is kind of some of our thoughts a little bit further in here. Now, Doug actually got a chance to play this game this weekend. So Doug,
Yes.
I'm curious, you are a huge Dark Souls person. What'd you think of Bloodborne?
Oh my god. It's so good. So I guess just to preface, I got to play this at Brad's house, and I put maybe 2 or 3 hours into it. But I played Dark Souls before, so this was actually the thing I really liked about Bloodborne was the fact that I had played Dark Souls before, so I could just jump right into it. Like, I didn't have to put in like my 5 hours of tutorial that Brad did, because I think within the 2 hours I got up to where you were after like 5 or 6 maybe.
Yeah, pretty close. I was actually really irritated watching you play that because like the stuff that's out there, I was like, man, it took me 2 hours to get to this point. You were there in 20 minutes, and it's just like, well, that's a little disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's definitely like a rhythm to these games. Like when you're looking at a stat sheet, it doesn't feel totally daunting. And when you get an item that you don't understand, you're like, okay, that's okay. I'm good with that. I'll probably figure out what that is later. But I just remember like my first time with Dark Souls, I was just so lost and it was so overwhelming. Literally, it's a 5-hour tutorial. Your first time playing it is like it's like 5 hours before you really get what's going on and how to play it. So this time I was able to jump right into it. Bloodborne, it's actually really funny because I think a lot of new players are finding it super frustrating, as like any Souls game should be. But it actually streamlines a lot of stuff from the Dark Souls, like for the better. One of the things that I really really liked was the Hunter's Dream, because the Hunter's Dream has like your level up person, you can fix your weapons, and you can buy stuff all in the same place. When you play Dark Souls, all that stuff is separate, and it's like you have to keep running around the map for like hours on end. It's like, oh, I need to go find this guy to go forge my weapon. Okay, it's gonna be like a 20-minute run to get there because you can't teleport either.
I don't like that.
Yeah, because Bloodborne, like you could, when I died, I go into the Hunter's Dream, I could teleport to any lamppost.
Yep.
But in Dark Souls 1, you can't do that. You actually have to run in between the lampposts.
Oh, so like if I'm in one corner of the map, I actually have to go back and get to the other one in Dark Souls?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So like, if I'm like, say a few hours ahead and I need to go back to the blacksmith, like you really have to hike it back to the blacksmith to do that. And I kind of like that Bloodborne. I think the whole idea of the series is just to make everything faster. So instead of having to spend all that time backtracking through areas I've already been to, I could just go in the Hunter's Dream and upgrade, do whatever, buy, sell, whatever. I really, really like that. Combat is just, oh my god, the combat is amazing. It's so much better than Dark Souls. Not that Dark Souls is bad, like Dark Souls combat is really good, but Bloodborne's is just so fast. It's actually really funny. I think Brad, you were actually, when I was watching you play, I mean, you've had like 5 more hours with it. You were actually doing better with the combat than I was, because I was used to like Dark Souls where I'd like attack and then I kind of back off. But man, if you back off in this game, those guys like rush you really hard.
Well, and we were talking about this too as you were playing it, is one of the differences that we noticed is, for me, never having played Dark Souls, like a huge part of this is that when you get hit, you can regenerate some of your health by attacking. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching Doug, I think it was the first boss you were fighting, I'm sitting there going, stop backing up, just hit him so you get your health back. Stop backing up every time you swing I think you had the saw blade, but
Yeah.
like, it's just, it seems like a different mindset in terms of speed, which, I mean, again, not having played Dark Souls, my thought is, oh, I can just kind of rush this guy a bit, attack, he hits me, get my health back, then maybe back out and heal.
Yeah, and I think I kind of got away with that in the first boss, which is like, I think they actually did set up that way that you could play like a traditional Dark Souls boss where, because like what I did is I attacked, I backed off, I got a few blood vials in, and the point I stopped though and got absolutely decimated was the second boss.
Which is a much faster boss than the first one.
Oh yeah, like he's way faster than like any Dark Souls boss I ever came across, like by far. And it's really funny because you can sort of like Dark Souls your way through the first boss, but the second boss just like destroyed me. I just wasn't prepared for him to be that fast. I saw Brad play him first, like this should be easy. Oh my god. And I think you recently, and that's where I just stopped because I was just like, that made me realize, like, even having played Dark Souls and actually got up to that point, I guess, fairly quickly, it made me realize, like, I don't really understand this game fully yet, which was kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling knowing that you can be 2-3 hours into a game and really not have a feel for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Which you said a 5-hour tutorial. I mean, and when Doug's finished up here, I'll give kind of my updated thoughts on this, but that's exactly how I felt. It's like the first 5 hours, I played that so wrong and had no clue what I was doing. And just like the way I'm playing it now is 100% different than what I was doing before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like taking over the episode just over this little bit, but like because I'm taking over my interview position real quick, but like last time we did the impressions, we did it because you were having such a miserable time with it.
That was
like
I got
I got your Bloodborne is bullshit. Let me see. I have some choice quotes here. So every time you die, okay, this is Brad speaking. So every time you die, you lose all of your points to level up. From me, yes, Brad. Game is starting to be a load of bullshit. Another choice quote. Dude, seriously, I'm at 2.5 hours. I haven't gotten to the first boss. That's just bullshit. I don't care how okay you are with dying. And I guess you're pretty sour, too. Like, the whole reason we did that kind of the first Bloodborne impression, because I thought you were, like, hilariously sour on the game. So now...
Which is normally not something I am. For, like, 99% of the games I don't get that way with.
Yeah. I mean, you're usually, like, instantly, like, in the first hour, it's like, oh, I like this game, or I don't like this game, and you did not like this game. So now that you've actually gotten... I don't know, where have you been? So, yeah. So you just start talking. Like, what's different from Wednesday when we talk?
All right, so at this point, I'm closer to probably the 5 or 6 hour mark than the 2 or 3 where we talked about. So about twice as long. Oh my gosh, this game is amazing. I love this game. I don't know. There are very few things I can think of that I've ever had such a dramatic shift in my mindset of. Like, I was close to just like when we recorded that podcast, just being like, you know what? Screw it. I'm done with this. I'll just give it to Doug. He can, when he gets his PS4 in a month or two, he can have it. Like, I'm done with this.
I kind of thought, I was like, oh, I got a cheap copy of Bloodborne.
But, and like you said, I mean, you kept, every time we were talking about it, you talked about like, oh, it's such a huge, like, it's basically just a giant learning curve. Like, once you get the hang of it, it is so much fun, and everything that's in there makes sense. Okay, I understand that you lose experience because you run in, you lose experience, but instead you're getting items. You get all these different things that you don't think of at first. But, with that, yeah, that kind of is annoying, but you kind of learn to live with it, and you learn to understand, okay, how to play in this game. Like, once you understand how From Software wants you to play their game, you do really, really well with it, and it becomes a ton of fun.
Oh yeah, they punish the shit out of you. They hammer you into playing the game right. Especially with that item thing, I thought is like a super, super weird system that I've like never seen in any other game, where you keep your items when you die, but you lose your experience. I've never heard that in any other game ever.
Yeah, because normally you keep everything or you lose everything. I've never seen this like half and half thing. Like we were talking, relating it back to BioShock, where BioShock, like I don't remember if it was as prevalent in the second two, but the first one you could basically play that game by dying. You could run up, shoot him a couple times, die, run back up, shoot him a couple times, die, and you could play the game like that. This game, you can't do that. I mean, you're going to die. You have to die basically for this game to work, and you just have to be okay with that. But just everything about this game, I mean, it is a gorgeous game. The enemy design, to the point where I am, it starts to get a little bit more varied. You start out fighting mostly like people with a couple like wolves and things, but then it gets varied as you go through. The bosses are awesome, just trying to figure out their patterns. So Doug was talking about the quick second boss. No spoilers, so I'm going to say what it is, but he's very fast. It's a very fast boss, and it's just you really have to understand the patterns in his attacks to really be able to do it. And I got to the point where I think I had a run the other day where it was like I was pretty much like 45-50 minutes without dying, which was just
good.
Which, like, as it happened, like, is the most paranoid I've ever been playing a video game, because it's like, oh, please, oh god, okay, I've got 2 blood vials left, oh god, there's got to be one. I haven't seen a lantern in 20 minutes, there's got to be one. And it's just like, it's this paranoia of like, oh, if I find a lantern, I get 4 levels right now, but if I die, I have to go back and replay this 50-minute stretch, which is cool, but I'm really glad I got to a lantern. I actually ended up getting to a lantern and then dying like 2 minutes after a lantern, but like
Yeah. I think it's the thing I like about the game is like it makes you it's like the only time like in a long time I felt like really palm sweatingly like nervous in a game, just because like you can end up with like a shit ton of souls, because once you get better at the game, you collect more souls because you've lived longer.
Yeah.
And so you're like now carrying around like a big bucket of souls, and you're like, oh my god. So it's like not even just the fear of like being in some like creepy horror Victorian. It's like the fear of like losing all your experience as well. It's a weird feeling, but like, yeah, I can see it being really bullshit to start with.
It plays into that setting because it actually creates a sense of fear. Like most games, like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to think. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it's like, oh man, if I die, something creepy is gonna happen. I'm gonna die. Oh well, I'll try it again. This is like, oh man, something crazy is gonna happen. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna lose all this work. Like, I mean, initially, I remember I was like, oh man, I had 900 blood echoes and I just died. And then it was like the other day I was at like I think like 4,500 or something, just like trying to find a lantern desperately.
I mean, the thing I like about Bloodborne too is like with that specifically, they actually do give you items, like so you can sort of have a backup too. They're really expensive, but like you could put like I think I was playing on yours and I had like 2,500 souls, which is a lot for me at that point for what I was playing. So I put on like one of those, I don't know, like something masks or something. Yeah, the hunter mask, and you get to keep them. I have no idea if you only get 4 of those per game, but like at that point, I really wanted to keep my souls. But I like the game sort of. If you don't pay attention, you will fail, which is really cool. And I think that's kind of like what you're saying with like that fear of like having so many souls and stuff like that. Is like the game doesn't really have a safety net. It's all up to you to sort of like kind of walk across this swinging bridge, and you got to be careful. You're gonna fall, and then you're just gonna lose everything. I just, oh man, it's so good. Sorry, one thing you had brought up before was the creature design. So I don't know, like if you noticed, but like the reason I really, really, really love the Soul series, like more than anything, like I think the game is like pretty good, but the creature design is like bar none the best in any game I ever played. Like for Dark Souls at least, and then when I was playing Bloodborne, I was like, oh. Like this is not really a spoiler. It's like one of the first enemies you see. It's like, oh, a crow enemy, but it's like a crow covered in tar feathers, and it like crawls across the ground and like barely gets up to like attack you. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! And then there's like some, I don't know. It's getting. I mean, the first few people they're just like people, but man, it's like they kind of show you like hints of like what's to come of like really weird stuff. Mm-hmm. Like even like the big fat enemies like beat the crap out of you. In their hands, they just have like a brick. Like they just beat you with a brick. I thought it was kind of cool because like you think most enemies like they have some like elaborate sword or some sort of like I don't know that enemy would have like shackles or something like that. It's like no, this guy just like beats you to hell with like a cinder block and like that's it.
Yep.
But they make that enemy seem so cool and so scary. But not just the creature design. The thing I like about these games is because like we were talking about that fear aspect. These monsters, they are scary looking and they are also scary gameplay wise.
Oh yeah, like I came to a point the other day where it was like literally like I just like yelled an expletive at my TV because I was walking through here and just out of nowhere this giant wolf thing comes barreling out of this door, and it wasn't even necessarily like it was like it was basically set up to be a jump scare, but that wasn't really what got me. It was like it was a jump scare. I had 2,000 souls, 1 blood vial, and like half my health left, and I was just like, oh god, like please don't let this happen, please don't let this happen, please let me figure this out. Hit the lock on really quick, like so again it all plays into that aspect of like everything in this game is designed so perfectly. And I think I mentioned it when we did my first impressions, like just how irritated I was by all this design stuff, and all this design stuff after you get into the game and you really understand the game, it really does go, okay, I get why this is here. I understand this. All of this makes so much sense, and it all fits together so perfectly. And I think I said, like, I can understand this is a great game. It's just not a game that I like. It's not a fun game, I think is kind of where I left it. And, like, I'm just looking back now and going, okay, this is a good game. This is a fun game. It was just a game I didn't have the ability to understand at that point. And I think like just maybe that's coming in fresh. I think that's just probably going to be a common opinion. One of my friends actually texted me about an hour before we recorded this and just said, Bloodborne is the most discouraging thing I've ever seen. And I was like, oh, where are you? And he went, oh, the first boss. Which is literally the exact point where I was yelling all that stuff at you on Wednesday. So
Yeah, so like, what would you tell? I guess this is like how I kind of want to finish out this conversation. Is like, what would you tell Brad, who is like on Wednesday? Like I kept telling you, it's like, don't worry about death, but you're like, no, it sucks when I die. You know what I mean? Like I like all of your complaints are totally valid when you just don't understand how the gameplay. So how would you tell somebody just like, what would your final thoughts to somebody who is super pissed off of this game, can't beat the first boss, or whatever?
I would just say just keep going with it. Like, once you get the hang of it, and don't just try and rush through it. Like, that was my problem, is I think I wanted to go through the entire thing all at once. Like, I wanted to go, okay, boss 1, done. Boss 2, done. Like, you really need to slow down and go, okay, I don't understand this. I'm just going to go do a couple practice runs, figure this out, and just have to be okay with going, okay, the next hour, I'm not going to make any progress at all, it's going to seem like, but once you get the hang of it, like, you're pretty much good to go, and you can start making, once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. Or not easy. Easy is probably the wrong choice of word. It makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will say that game is easy. Yeah, I think one of the cool things, too, is that even if you're beating your head against a wall, or like what you're saying, like you're kind of doing like that exploratory phase, like you are gaining like souls as you're doing that. And you'll notice like...
Until you die, I mean, sometimes
you don't. Yeah, but I'm saying if you're just doing little exploratory things, like you'll slowly start gathering souls. Like you'll accidentally be grinding as you're exploring.
Pretty much, yeah.
So like, and I think it's kind of a cool thing, like where you feel like you're kind of beating your head, but no, you're slowly getting a little bit of experience.
Mm-hmm. You're getting those items. You're getting an understanding of it, and I think that's really what you have to understand. Is up until the first or second boss, it's more of spend that time not necessarily worrying about progress, but worry about understanding how to play the game, because you have to play this game a certain way, or you just might as well not even bother. This isn't a Metal Gear Solid where it's, oh, you can play the way you want to play. Nope, you need to play this way.
Yeah. I think you could be a little wiggle room, like if once you get like really good at it, like with the weapon types and things like that. But you really do need to understand like the language the game speaks before you can start speaking back, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do you have any like still any minor little issues you have with it still, or?
I think, and we hit on this on Wednesday, I think the only thing that really still bothers me is the load times. Oh my gosh, the load times. If they could patch that, I would not have a single complaint at this point. But just, man, like, I almost want to sit down with a timer and get like an average time for them, because they are long and they are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And in a game that's designed around trial and error to a point, you can't have the trial and error be extended and go, okay, you're probably going to need to try this part 2 times, something's going to jump out, hit you, and hopefully you have enough health to get through it, and then go, oh, sorry, you didn't know it was coming, you better go back 5 minutes. Well, while you're going back 5 minutes, here's a little minute-and-a-half scene of just Bloodborne on your TV.
Yeah, we did talk. I actually noticed that too. I thought it was really cool the first time I died though, because it felt like I thought that like the first time I died was like you'd first see that Bloodborne thing. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. The first time I died, it just says Bloodborne. And I was like, oh yeah. But then like it kept coming up. I was like, oh, it's just a loading screen.
Yeah, which for this series would be an awesome title screen. Just like you play, just like, okay, here you go, and then like you die, and it's like, all right, Bloodborne by you just go into like the opening credits.
Yeah, I wish instead of you died, it just said the title of the game, like just Bloodborne.
All right, so any final thoughts on that at all, or?
I am super excited to play. This was like the game I was kind of waiting to get PS4 for, and after playing it at your place for, I don't know, for like the 2 or 3 hours I played it, and then realizing like I didn't have to go through that really long trek I had with Dark Souls in order to figure out how to play this game. I could just jump right into it. Got me really, really excited for it. And yeah, this is definitely the game I'm buying a PS4 for, and I don't think that it's... I mean, honestly, I'll probably be good at this game for like a few days. For like, not a few days, like a few months. I'll be totally okay. Mm-hmm. And and just like, honestly, just little hints of exploration they had throughout that. Like, because I got really far in the sewer area. I was like, you know what? I can't really get any farther because I know I'm going to die, and, you know, I'm at your house and I can't really play this. But I was just so excited to see, like, oh, I wonder what's at the end of that sewer. I don't know. Yeah. What happens when I beat that second boss? There's just so many, like, little paths. There's so many little paths that I couldn't get all the way through that I was excited to get the way through. So, yeah, I guess my final thoughts is, like, I am really excited to play more Bloodborne. And I can totally see why people are giving this 9 out of 10. Oh, one thing this is, like, really minor thought. One thing I am worried about is that people are like, EA, I don't think EA could ever make a Bloodborne just because I don't know if they have good enough game design to make a Bloodborne. They're like, oh, people like hard games now because Bloodborne is super popular. It's like, no. People like hard games, and they're completely designed.
Well done.
Yeah, they're like completely designed to be around being that difficulty, not just because they're hard.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so speaking of hard games, one of the other games, and this is kind of interesting, so this is something that neither one of us really has any experience with, but has been around forever. Last week there was a huge sale on some classic games that Sony put up, and we both bought a couple of the old Mega Man games. Now, neither one of us ever played these before.
Yeah.
And I only played maybe just a bit of one of the ones I bought, but I think you played a decent chunk of the one you had, which was Mega Man X4. What did you think of that?
Well, first, I have played a little bit of Mega Man in the past, like very little. Like, I think I got about as far in this Mega Man as I have in other Mega Mans in the past. Like, I think I played a Mega Man about 12 years. I remember as a kid renting these games and being really disappointed. I was like, why are these in 2D? I don't get this. It's not Super Nintendo. But now I would like smack my younger self. These games are gorgeous. Is like my first impression.
Yes, they are. Especially for being 15 years old at this point.
Oh yeah, that's like some good pixel. Like you see some indie games like, oh, we got a pixel art game. Like you guys are not as good looking as Mega Man. That game is great looking, but man, especially after coming Bloodborne and seeing how far we've come with the balance of memorizing versus challenge, and man, Mega Man just kind of seems like a game from the dark ages where people are like, oh man, Mega Man's a great example of how hard games should be. It's like, no, Bloodborne and Dark Souls are as good example of how hard games should be. The reason I don't like this game is that it relies way too much on memorization. Way too much. I don't think that you can survive in a Mega Man game without knowing what's coming up. I feel like this whole episode I'm gonna keep going back to Bloodborne. So in Mega Man, let's say I'm having trouble with this like one robot. This one robot will always come on screen and always fire the exact same amount of bullets in the exact same pattern, and you just have to memorize the pattern. Like that's all it is. I don't even know if these games are hard if you're really good at memorizing shit.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I just felt like I don't know. I just felt like this is a game I just had to memorize shit, and it felt like taking an exam or something like that. Because in like Bloodborne, God, I'm gonna keep talking about Bloodborne. It's so bad. I feel like even if you know what you're doing, you still have to come up with you still have problems on the fly. Like, oh, I didn't account for that one enemy who kind of snuck up behind me because they're remote roaming. But this one is just like, oh, I took care of that enemy. Oh, I took care of that. He didn't kill me this time. He didn't do that. Man, it just felt like a chore. It didn't feel rewarding. Like this one, it's really funny. This game has like the most obvious reward for like progress, which is like you get a new power and like they get a big X across like whoever you beat. But it just felt like empty. I was like, I didn't feel like I beat it. I feel like I memorized it pretty well.
Did you beat
I don't know.
X4?
No, I got halfway through it. I got like once you beat. This is not a spoiler.
Well, the game's 15 years old. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. I beat the first 4 robot masters, and then you fight some sort of rival character, and then you just gotta complete the rest of the game. I just got bored and frustrated. I was like, I just didn't want to complete it. Yeah. Which is really weird because I thought I actually enjoyed. I mean, I bought this game because I thought I kind of like it, but man, it just felt clunky. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I didn't like Mega Man. I don't like Mega Man. I've learned.
Yeah, so, I had kind of the same impression with that. I mean, the big thing for me is I was playing this as I was playing Bloodborne, so I was like, oh, I'm so pissed at Bloodborne. Screw this game. And set that down, pick up. I was playing it on my Vita, and I was like, oh, now I hate Mega Man. I hate that. Like the worst two games to play concurrently. But, yeah, I don't know. I just had the same thing. Like, it just at this point, and again, these are old games, but maybe it's just that they feel dated. I don't know, because I had that same thought of like, all right, I need to almost like sit down and like mark out, okay, after I go past this tree, there's going to be 3 robot bees who are going to fly in this, and just have to have that prior knowledge of what's coming up. And just, I mean, I had the same thing. It's a hard game, but I don't know, I just got bored and frustrated with it. It was just like, like Bloodborne, I mean, I was obviously irritated with it, but I still had a desire to go back and figure it out. This was just like, I'm irritated and I'm done. I'm not feeling a reward. I'm not feeling any desire to get past this. And I don't know, maybe if it's just the game itself, or maybe it's just the fact that I'm playing this along with Bloodborne, so I'm just getting frustrated all week. I don't know.
Yeah, I think okay, I'm just gonna concede that I'm gonna talk about Bloodborne with every single game I talk about this week. With Bloodborne, it's like you feel like you're kind of finding new areas and exploring new things. With like Mega Man, like the whole game is laid out in front of you. You can go anywhere in the game.
Oh yeah.
Except for maybe like the final boss. You can't go to the final boss right away. You can't go through the midway boss. But you can literally see pretty much everything in that game in an hour.
Mm-hmm. And without making any progress too. You can just pick level 1. All right, died on the level 1 boss. All right, let's jump to level 2. Died on the level 2. Okay, let's see what level... And you don't have to make any progress to see anything. Nothing is hidden from you initially outside of, like you said, maybe the couple last bosses.
Yeah, it felt like everything was already laid out there for me. And honestly, like there's a few times, like honestly, the part I stopped was I got to a boss and it had some sort of shield and I didn't have the right weapon for it. Like I fought all the way through that level, and then I realized like, oh well, crap, I don't have the right weapon. I guess I'm gonna have to replay this whole part. But I already wasn't having fun.
Yeah, like, and then having that factor come in.
Yeah. I just man, I guess I can see why people like these because I feel like these are kind of like the Dark Soulsy games of the day because they obviously have very specific placement. Like the game does the thing I do like is the game sort of tricks you into going too fast.
Yep. Yeah, you want to run through it.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of used to that too, especially with games like Super Meat Boy and like I don't know if you ever played N+, but there's like but like the new hard platformers are like you run through it as fast as you can. And you have to do like a lot of skills and stuff. But Mega Man is like they make you go really slow. So I guess I think that might be a part of it. That this feels outdated more just because it's not nearly as fast as like modern day platformers.
Yeah, and again, I think that might be just again an issue of maybe we're not playing this right, kind of like with Bloodborne, where it's like if I took the time to sit down and really understand how I should play a Mega Man game, I would get into it a bit more. But it's just I don't have the desire to do that. Nothing's holding me in and pulling me in like I had with Bloodborne.
Yeah, I feel, yeah. I mean, like I said, the art was pretty cool, but like you could explore the whole game basically, if you want to, like right on the offset. So there's no real reason except just like, oh, like I guess it's sort of like an intrinsic, like in your heart, you know you can beat this, and it's just like no, you need to reward me properly. And I don't know.
Give me something.
I feel like I'm being. I feel like I'm complaining about a game that's like 15 years behind any sort of modern sense of accomplishment in games. So.
Where's my trophy? All right. So,
yeah, at least Bloodborne gives you trophies.
That's true. Last game that we were kind of playing this week, and I didn't play this one yet. I do have this, and I bought it because it was $1 last week, and I think that's why you got it, was, I think like the full title is like Pac-Man Championship Edition DX something. It's got plus, a real long title, but...
Yeah, there's a plus at the end of that.
But anyway, Pac-Man Championship Edition DX plus ... etc. So you were playing this week. What did you think about that? Kind of another classic throwback type game.
Well, this is a classic throwback game that made Pac-Man fun. Like I used to play when I say used to play Pac-Man, it's like everybody used to play Pac-Man. Like everybody went to everybody went to a card and like threw in a quarter for Pac-Man and said, "Oh, this isn't very fun," and then stopped playing. But this game is like I'm gonna say like, oh, it's like Pac-Man on crack, but it's just a really really sped up version of Pac-Man. And because it's sped up, it's sort of They add little parts of the gameplay where, like, say you're about to die, like they'll do slow-mo things. So you're given a split second to turn around or turn the other way or something like that. But man, this game is just so fun, and it's really fun because it's really really fast, and it kind of changes what you think a Mega Man game should be.
You mean Pac-Man?
God dang it! This game's way different than Mega Man. I can't believe this is the Mega Man series. It's ridiculous. They changed everything. No, like the basic gameplay is different than Pac-Man. Where Pac-Man is you sort of go around collecting dots, and this one you go around collecting ghosts, which is kind of cool. Like have you not played this game at all, or?
No, I bought it and I was so busy with Bloodborne, and I mean I played a little bit of Mega Man, but I really haven't played anything other than Bloodborne this week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, cool. So I can actually explain how this game works. Like, so it's like a normal Pac-Man board, normal quote unquote. Like they have all these new different designs for the Pac-Man boards. And what they do, they sort of populate the board with sleeping ghosts. And then when you go by them, they start chasing you immediately. So if you turn around, you're going to die immediately. Huh. But the idea is you sit there and you collect all these sleeping ghosts. So you have a huge chain of ghosts like following you and chasing you around really fast. And then you grab like a power pellet and then they all turn blue, like they're like you can eat them. So you like eat through like 30 ghosts at once, and it's so satisfying. It's amazing. And that's like the main game too, which is like nothing like old school Pac-Man. And then the game is stupid fast. Like I only played on this is gonna sound I only played on expert. But I played on expert. And I never played this game before. And basically what expert is, it just means it goes really effing fast. So you're like zipping and zooming around the board. It felt a lot like I don't know. I really like fast paced games. Like I like some rhythm based games. Kind of like Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy is like another fast game. This game is just stupid fast. It's so much fun. It's like Pac-Man. They just made for whatever reason, making Pac-Man twice as fast as it normally is makes it way more fun. One thing I do want to mention is the important. This is like one of the only games I've ever noticed like the real importance of visual design in your games, because the game lets you pick your Pac-Man type, and it basically has like every version of Pac-Man that's ever been. And then you get to pick your board, and like you have the classic blue and black board, or you can have like these neon colored ones. Some there's like made out of these Lego brick things. And it's basically like every Mega Man board and every Mega Man art. God dang, I keep saying Mega Man. Every Pac-Man art style that's ever been. But if you play on expert, it's like the first time I've ever seen a game where I couldn't, like I had to pick the colors and the board so I could see better, because I was going so fast that I was getting my visuals mixed up, and it was dying because I was getting the ghost mixed up with the board. And it made me realize like that you really need to have this sort of like high contrast between like your playing field and your players, kind of like fighting games. You think about fighting games, the backgrounds are always a little bit more muted than the player characters. And this became like super important in this game, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Like so you're not even not even playing the game, just like trying to sit there and pick the perfect Pac-Man and board combination so you can actually follow along what's going on. Disappointingly, it was like the most plain looking Pac-Man, the most plain looking board.
I mean, that's normally how these things end up being anyway. If you're really trying to get that, what's going to make it easiest, you always got to go basic, as opposed to like the flashing lights and the Pac-Man that changes colors every 3 steps.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, oh my gosh, I remember like when kids used to play Quake. They made everything blue and then the characters red.
Yep.
So it's like everything's just like they turn off all the textures and turn off everything. But like you need to do that for this game, and I felt like way too hardcore.
Huh.
It made me feel too hardcore.
All right, the one question I have about this game is if it's super fast paced, the like classic Pac-Man waka waka, do they like super speed that up?
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I mean that is. Oh, do they? Oh, like the noise, like the waka waka noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. It's like waka 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 waka. They really do. I did not even think about that, but they totally do. And the game like speeds up the longer you play. So it starts out like normal, like waka 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 waka, but then like by the end it's like waka 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 waka. And it's
that right there makes me want to play
it. It's awesome, and I think if you bought it for like honestly, you could probably play that now and you should just play an expert immediately. Yeah, that game's a ton of fun.
Very nice. All right, so looking ahead here, some games that we're kind of excited for coming, well, as I feel like it is every week now, later than sooner. One of the big announcements that came out this week is that the new Legend of Zelda for Wii U was delayed by Nintendo.
Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. But so this originally, I think it was the Game Awards last year, I think is when they announced this, and they said, and the best news is it's coming in 2015. And then they released a video and was like, well, we kind of realized that making a good game is better than making a 2015 game. Which, I mean, the way Nintendo works, I don't think anybody was surprised by this.
No, that game, when they showed it too, that game looked rough.
Yeah, that was an early stage game, and that was only like 2 months ago.
Yeah, when I saw that, like, my first impression of that demo was like, oh, cool, it's like, I don't know. I mean, like, the fact that Zelda was open world was like, it's just another time I was like, oh, Nintendo caught up. It's kind of like Nintendo, like, announcing we're going to have an online service. It's like, great, you know.
So did everybody else 6 years ago.
Yeah, like, I don't know, when did Oblivion come out? I don't know. Like,
well, I mean, even before Oblivion, you could go back to Morrowind, back on the original Xbox. Or, well, true. Probably PC for most of you, but...
Yeah. I mean, you could keep going, like, way far. I think, Morrowind is probably one of the big 3D open world. I'm sure that's... People are going to be like, no. Actually, there's an N64.
But that was the first one I personally remember was Morrowind. And, I mean, again, just that whole Nintendo catching up thing. But I mean, I don't understand how Nintendo really does release dates. They do have done the weirdest things lately. It seems like they just like throw it out there, like because the same time, I think it was the same time they announced Zelda was 2015. I think there was a video. I don't remember if it was Miyamoto or who it was in the video. It's just like, oh yeah, and Star Fox will be before that.
Oh god!
And that was all that was said.
Did you see videos of like the Star Fox demo they had at E3 or it was at E3? It was like
I think it was E3 last year. Or maybe it might have been TGS. I don't remember.
Yeah, either way, like that game looked like nothing. It was like an N60. Like they got it the normal. It looked like a normal ass Star Fox.
They had Star Fox 64 with motion controls.
Yeah, and I was like, that's coming in a year. Damn.
Yeah.
Maybe. I honestly think the only company that can do that like consistently is Platinum. Like Platinum is like we're not. It's like they can do games in a year. They have the craziest turnover ever.
Oh yeah.
Although I think when you're talking about this weird like how Nintendo announces games. They've actually, I like it better that they sort of announce a game and then there's like, oh, and 3 months later it does come out. Because they did it with the Toad Treasure Tracker.
Yeah, it was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to make this into a game. And then there it was. There wasn't this like, I mean, Uncharted 4 was announced, 2 years ago now? And we're still a year and a half out from it.
Square Enix is by far the worst at that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like, I think Nomura, there's an interview with like Nomura, he's like, we may have announced Kingdom Hearts 3 too early. I was like, yeah, no shit. Like,
really?
You guys, that's all you got. All what you saw of Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm pretty sure is all they had of Kingdom Hearts 3 at that point.
Square Enix just loves to announce games, I think, more than they like to make games. They just want to have a big announcement. But that is my favorite thing about Nintendo, is just the idea of, hey, we're pretty much done with this. We'll tell you about it. As opposed to, like, we have an idea. And this idea is going to be a game within the next decade.
Well, Miyamoto keeps doing that.
I guess he has, because I guess Star Fox, I think he originally hinted at that was probably right around the release of the Wii U, I think, when he first mentioned Star Fox Wii U.
Yeah, and then he showed his he had a bunch of little tech demo things.
Project,
that were really
what was
weird
it, like Project Giant Robot or something?
Yeah, he had that one, and he also had one where it's like, you look at security cameras and you shoot robots from security cameras. I don't know, it's super weird. Oh, what are we talking about? Zelda being delayed. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of got off track there, but I mean, everybody kind of saw this coming, and I don't think anybody's shocked by it. There are people like, oh, I can't believe this, but I mean, it's what we saw. I think had they rushed it anyway, was just going to be so bad, and I think that's probably has to be the discussion they had internally. Is like, okay, we showed this off. It looked okay. We can't rush Zelda. Like, Zelda is like, I mean, Zelda, let's be honest here, like, I can't think of a really bad mainline Zelda games. Like, a couple like the kind of like side game spin-off things.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you go back through, I mean, Skyward Sword, I haven't played Skyward Sword, but I know that wasn't people's favorite, and same with Twilight Princess, the last couple.
Yeah, but even those are still like good games.
They were great games. They were just like, oh man, this is an Ocarina of Time.
Except I hate Twilight Princess, and that game's a piece of shit, but we're not going to.
But, I mean,
only game to ever make me throw a controller. Continue.
I think it was my controller, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But, anyway, like, I don't know, I really feel like had they rushed this and they put out what they showed from the demo earlier, I don't think people would have been happy, and I think I'd rather have people irritated that, oh man, you told me this was coming and now it's not, than have people go, well, Zelda sucks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think people will be way more I mean, being it delayed is like, okay, that makes me a little sad. I mean, me personally, no. But, I mean, could you imagine, like, if there was a bad Zelda game? Like, that would have been way worse. Oh, my gosh. Actually, I just noticed, like, that the Splatoon advertising has suddenly gone, like, full rush. And I'm wondering it's because that's going to be their 2015 game. It's like, Zelda moves, so now Splatoon is the game of the hour. They're pushing a little bit more, but man, they are going. That must be coming out soon or something then.
But
they're really pushing that game.
But I mean, well, and again, I mean, it's Nintendo, so who knows? I mean, they could show up tomorrow and announce the new Metroid's coming in April. But I mean, who knows what's going on with Nintendo? But that's the only one I can think of still for this year. I mean, Star Fox is coming, but let's be honest here, that one looked really far away the last time we saw it. So, I mean, at this point, it's Splatoon and that's about it.
What's your thoughts on Splatoon?
I'm curious about it. Like, It's one of those games where I think it's got enough different going on that it could be interesting. I'm not a big multiplayer person, and I feel like it's almost going to have that Unreal Tournament thing where it's like, oh yeah, there's a single player where you play the multiplayer with bots.
This one actually does have a real single player.
It does?
Like, yeah, which I only learned recently.
Huh.
But yeah, as a real single player, but when I looked at it, it was kind of like, it was the floating blocks in space thing, so it was kind of like a, I don't know. It wasn't like you don't like explore the world of Splatoon. It's just basically like it's like you go from block to block through empty voids of space.
Oh.
Which is like okay, but
kind of similar to like a Mario game where it's like level 1A, level 1B, like that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean that's what it looked like anyway. I don't know if that is the case, but it wasn't like it's not like Mario Sunshine where you're running around like whatever Delfino Plaza or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, this game actually, as soon as I say that, this game actually does have a plaza in which you run around in. But that's that's like the main menu. That doesn't count.
Yeah. I'm curious enough that I'm like looking forward to it, but I don't know. I guess I just don't have a good enough idea of what the end product's going to be. Like I've seen like kind of the way some things work in it, but just I'm curious what is the end product going to be more so than anything else. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you. Yeah, no, I think you kind of touched on it. It kind of does remind me of like Unreal Tournament or Quake 3, where it's like it's gonna be really really fun it's a multiplayer game. Like it's just like a straight multiplayer game. I guess kind of like Super Smash Brothers, but it doesn't have Nintendo characters. But yeah,
which changes everything. If I can play as Lucario, then it's gonna be a great game.
Don't knock my Lucario. Okay, I don't like Lucario. I like playing as Lucario. I didn't even know he was a Pokemon when I first picked him up, but I like playing as him. But yeah, no, Splatoon just seems okay. I don't quite get what's special about it. I think the paint mechanic is pretty cool, but it does kind of look like it's like Quake 3 with the cool paint mechanic.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see somebody actually throw something new into a shooter genre. I mean,
true.
If you look at it, I mean, everything has been copy and pasted from Call of Duty, Halo, and Battlefield pretty much in every multiplayer game for the last half dozen years, with subtle variations on the mechanics here and there. But it's interesting to throw something completely new in there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I think that should be enough to get excited about it.
Yeah. So DMC just had the definitive edition come out. And I know that you are very excited about it. We're both big Devil May Cry fans. So what are your thoughts on having DMC coming out on PS4 now? And I don't remember. Is it on Xbox One? I know it's for sure PS4.
Yeah, I think it's come out for both. DMC Special Edition is kind of like it's the We Listen to You Guys edition, in which they made a bunch of. So a lot of people really didn't like the original DMC. I actually never got around to playing it.
It's awesome.
I honestly. Yeah, I know. I've heard it's really good. I wanted to play it on PC, but I didn't have a good PC at the time. I just kind of figured it'd eventually get re-released, and it did. So I actually probably will pick it up this time. But yeah, like the special edition is basically like every sort of issue that people had with DMC, they tried to fix.
So Dante has white hair now.
Well, no. Well, yeah, actually does. They have a DMC 1 costume, so they kind of.
That was the main issue I remember when that game came out. Is well, he doesn't have white hair. This isn't Dante. He doesn't have white hair. You can't. This isn't.
All right. To be fair, people actually did have some like real issues with it because the game is not a Devil May Cry game.
No, it plays very differently.
Yeah, I think people are really mad about that. But the new like definitive edition speeds up a lot. It tweaks a lot of like the spacing and the animations and things. It's a lot of minor tweaks, but it's like I don't know, like a 5-page PDF of minor tweaks that all sort of add up. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually kind of excited to play. And like one of the things I really like is that they have a turbo mode where you can play at 125% speed.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, which is like actually kind of when you speed up DMC, it kind of turns into like a normal DMC game speed.
Yeah.
So like so it's not totally crazy. That game, I'm actually really excited for that because I actually from the first trailer I was actually kind of on board with like the reimagining Dante and everything. I actually thought it was kind of cool. I will admit from day one I was kind of excited for that game. I never got to play it though.
Yeah, see,
so I'm definitely picking up that one.
I was excited about it too, and I mean I think people always go overboard whenever you change anything about a series that's been around for a while. And DMC is not a mainstream franchise. I mean, it's a pretty has kind of more of like a cult following as opposed to,
It's it's like a multi-million-dollar game. Like it actually sells a ton.
But I mean, still compared to like, I mean, I'm thinking like, we were just talking about Zelda. If you talk about, we're gonna talk about Halo here in a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you think like big name franchises, like if they all of a sudden like decided, okay, now Zelda's gonna, now Link's gonna be this instead of, you know what I mean? If you change Link's characteristics, people would just, go crazy. And again, like, I don't know, I think I'm missing my point here. But anyway, like, the way people went crazy over it, I mean, I don't feel like you can make some of those changes in some of those mainstream games that they made. Even if you list it as a reboot or whatever, there's still things that you need to hold that I think they lost with DMC. But again, I was on board right away from the beginning, just everything about it. I liked it. I mean, Devil May Cry was a series that was great, but by 4, it was pretty much the same thing. You knew what you were getting. Yeah. There was very few changes from 1 to 4 outside of, hey, we added a different playable character, those types of things. Yeah. I mean, and you're the type of person that harps on. You're the type of person that harps on minor things. I tend to just look at overall package more so than, well, in this one, my sword moved twice as fast as. Overall, is the same concept.
Yeah, actually, I think the series. I personally think that the series has gone downhill since DMC1. Actually, no. Real quick, because this is our podcast, I can say what I want.
Exactly.
I built my soapbox so I can speak from it. I really like the horror. I really like the reason I was really excited for DMC was because I really like the horror aspects of DMC1, and that kind of just like went completely away with DMC3 and 4. And then like when I saw the new DMC. It was kind of like this like weird, gritty Salvador Dali horror thing. I was like, oh, now I'm back on board. Because honestly, like as much as I like DMC4, and I think it plays really, really well, the setting is kind of not so interesting. So when they like, oh, we're going to completely change the setting and everything, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Although they did leave DMC4 on a cliffhanger, so that was not very cool of them to do.
That was kind of the weird thing with it. I was like, well, wait a minute. You promised us more, and now you're decided that that's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, well, I guess that's kind of a good segue into DMC4. I guess I can talk about this one a little bit. DMC4 Special Edition, which was I feel so bad for DMC Special Edition or Remastered or whatever it's called, because they had a Virgil tease for DMC4 Special Edition. Like people were way more excited about that.
That was like the biggest news. Was DMC Virgil what?
Yeah. Yeah, so they basically announced that DMC4, it's basically the PC version, which I've actually played, but I played a lot of it, so I'm actually not really excited about this. So it's DMC4, it's basically the PC version with all the PC version extras, and then you get to play as Virgil, Trish, and Lady, which is cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but my biggest issue with DMC4 was that, like, you played the game once, and then you played it in reverse, and like they didn't fix that. Like they didn't add any new levels. I was like, what the hell?
The last that is a game where just the last little bit of it was like, ugh, it was just such a grind to get to the end of that game.
Yeah, and like they swapped out, like the main guy was fine, like Nero was fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope, Dante's back in it, and then he's gonna get all the weapons.
Yep. Yeah, just the way that game transitioned between the parts and just the way that it kind of, I don't know, like the whole, like the first half of that game is, in my mind, just fantastic. And then oh, this was so good. Let's make them do it again. It's like, wait a minute. See what you're doing here.
I feel like I was playing a different game. I feel like, honestly, there was like somebody at Capcom was like, I know you guys have a pretty good game, but we need to put Dante in it, and there's no questions. We're putting Dante in. We're just gonna put Dante in. And like, well, but we have all the enemies are set up for you to fight as Nero.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the grab mechanic, like a lot of the, and he's like, nope, we're gonna put Dante in. It doesn't matter. Just make him fit. Just put DMC3 Dante in him. And they did, and then they gave him all the weapons. I was so mad about that.
Why were you mad about that?
Cool, okay, Nero is not super cool, but he plays really well.
Yes.
And then he got the short end of the stick in his own game. So no, I'm not excited, Capcom.
All right, so the last thing we want to talk about here, and this just kind of came out here, is Halo 5 just got a release date. So it is coming out October 27th, 2015. As of now, I mean, I feel like we've been talking about game delays every week, but not too far out, so coming 7 months from now, and this is a game that I really, really wish I had an Xbox One for. I'm a huge Halo fan, and it hurts me a little bit knowing this will be the first Halo game I have not played on release day one.
Besides the fact that this is Halo, has anything shown thus far make you go, oh?
Not at all, no. I'm going to be completely honest. What they've shown so far, and I didn't get a chance, I didn't touch the beta at all. I don't have an Xbox One. I don't really know anyone within a reasonable distance who has an Xbox One that I could go over and go, okay, I'm playing Halo 5 for a couple hours, go away. So I haven't touched this at all. I know most people, who are interested have had a little bit of time with the beta at least, but there's just something about Halo, and I mean, we talked about this, I think it was a couple episodes ago, episode 4, I think, where we talked about kind of those games that really got us into gaming, and I mean, and that's Halo for me. I don't care. It says Halo on the box. Yes, give me that. And to this point, I really haven't got burned with that. I mean, been a couple lower points in the series, but for the most part, I mean, everything about Halo makes me excited. I just the name. I mean, when they first put out the trailer for Halo 5, which was just basically Master Chief in the desert for about 30 seconds, I was like, oh man, I'm so pumped. I want that now. And it was literally just a pre-rendered trailer of Master Chief in the desert.
Yeah, I mean, the advertising of this game has been really weird. I don't know, like the latest trailer, I think that the trailers that they used to announce the release date was like, I'm not a fan of Halo, but I remember, was it Halo 3, the museum trailer?
Halo 3 is when they started this trend of live action trailers, and it's been every Halo since Halo 3 has had these live action trailers.
Okay, but to be clear, they started with the museum trailer, which was like effing amazing.
So good.
And then this one looked like they shot in the back lot, like a cheap back lot, and then they brought in their local cosplayers.
Yep.
And then they're like, okay, guys, I need you to go lay by that statue, and then we're gonna swap you out, and then we're gonna put a release date.
Yeah, I mean, and none of these Halo for the most part, the majority of the Halo live action stuff, and I know, what was it, Nightfall, I think is the name of the series that just came out.
Yeah, did you watch that or no?
No, I haven't, but just everything I've seen from Halo live action stuff, it never really works well. And the museum one, I think, is kind of the exception to the rule. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, I don't understand the idea behind it. Like, Halo is a popular enough franchise at this point that you can show a CG trailer from some of the cutscenes. You can show just straight gameplay, and people are going to get pumped about it. I don't understand this need to go to all these live action stuff.
I think it's just like to get you. It doesn't matter what they do. They can just put Halo at the end of it, and people go, "Oh my God, it's Halo!" So I feel like you're never going to get no, because they actually had some really good CG blur for the Halo 2 anniversary. I don't know what their excuse is. This is weird. This is super weird.
Yeah, it just seems like, and again, it's something that they've been doing for forever, and I don't understand. I don't know whose idea it was to go, hey, I guess to me, full pre-rendered CG trailers get so much crap, 'cause it's like, oh, well, show me the game, and then Halo comes along and says, we're not even going to bother with showing a CG trailer, we're just going straight live action.
Yeah.
And there's really not much backlash against that. People are like, oh, that's kind of cool, it's a live action. Like, I get if you're gonna do that once or twice, fine. But I mean, ODST had it, Halo 4 had it. I'm sure Reach had it. I don't specifically remember some, but that was right around the push for a Halo movie, so I'm sure there was a ton. But all this stuff has this, we need to go live action trailer.
Yeah, and like honestly, the museum trailer was really good because it wasn't like the power armor and the aliens, like they just show like a scaled model of that stuff. Like you didn't actually see them fighting. Like for whatever reason, like people in Halo armor just look super clunky, like in live action.
Because it's a clunky design. I mean, it's a big, heavy. I mean, it's like if you looked at a suit of armor from medieval times, nobody's gonna look sleek and fast in that.
Yeah, and that's what like CG helps with that. Like CG makes that look fast and powerful. But man, like I don't know, it just feels like their little heads just about, like the little helmet's about to wobble off. They kind of look like stormtroopers, but not even cool as stormtroopers because they're not the right proportions for the suit of armor like Master Chief has. Yeah, I mean, if they actually, I'm actually waiting for the gameplay trailer. I feel like the gameplay trailer is gonna be like amazing. So I guess I'm excited for that. But man, they gotta stop that live action stuff like you were talking about.
Yeah, and people are gonna get excited regardless. Like you said, you put Halo after anything, you could just show a picture of the box art for 30 seconds, and at the end put the release date, and people are gonna be excited.
Yeah, or you could just have this part where you show a desert that has absolutely no context to Halo, and then show Master Chief for a split second, and then it gets Brad excited.
Yep. But I mean, that's like, let's be honest here. Had Kingdom Hearts 3 had their initial release just had Sora and Mickey standing there with a Keyblade, and they just went, well, let's do this again, or some like corny line of dialogue, you would have been like, oh my god, this is gonna be so cool. Regardless of kind of right.
They actually did kind of do that with the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer. Like he picks up a Keyblade on the beach, and then they show like 5 seconds of pre-rendered gameplay.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I'm down. Yeah, I guess I'm saying I'm not talking down to you, but I'm just like, I don't get it. But you know, if they showed Sora walking through a desert, and then he pulls off his like cloak, and a giant machine came out of it, like, yeah, of course, it's Kingdom Hearts. What else would it be?
Exactly. And
I'd be totally on board with that.
So it's all a matter of perspective on stuff like that, but I'm excited for it. It's the game that's making me go, well, I guess I'm going to pay $400 to play Halo 5.
I mean, yeah, would you get a bundle? I mean, they're going to bundle the shit out of that. Like, would you... Okay, so would you maybe get that day one or no?
No, that would be like I don't know. I'm conflicted about it. It's one of those things where it's like, I want it, but do I want it for $400? Because at this point, I mean, I was a huge 360 person last gen, and now, like, there is nothing that I can look at and go, I want a 360 for that outside of Master Chief Collection, which I currently own every single part of.
Yeah.
360 and Sunset Overdrive I'm curious about, but even that, it's not something I'm super excited about. It's just something that, well, if that was on PS4, I would have bought it. But it's not something that makes me want to go out and buy a system. This is the only thing I can think of. I mean, other than that, the only other exclusive I can even think of, and I think it's timed, is Tomb Raider is the only other one that I'm even, at this point, have a subtle interest in.
And then there's, like, quote-unquote, like, there's Platinum game thing. It's just, I mean, it's a Platinum game, so it's going to be good.
Oh, absolutely. But, I mean, again, none of those make me want to go, okay, I need to spend $400 on this. Granted, I'll probably end up getting one, but... nothing out there is telling me I should. I'm going to, just out of curiosity.
I think the Sony really showed their hand at PSX. So like, this is what's coming, and they basically showed like all the games that are coming for PS4. But Microsoft has been really quiet, and I feel like they're going to just drop all their cards on the table pretty soon.
Yeah,
and just be like, oh well, this is everything that's coming to Xbox One. It's going to be just as big.
It's going to be like a Nintendo Direct, where it's like, okay, oh yeah, remember that one franchise you used to love? Next month. Remember that one thing? Yeah. 2 months. They're going to have like that moment at E3 where it's just like, is Phil Spencer still the head at Xbox? I don't remember. Whoever's doing the Xbox press conference at E3 is just going to stand up and they're going to go like, you like that trailer? July. Next trailer. How about August?
It's kind of cool and kind of, I don't know if it's like, oh, it's because Microsoft has nothing, but I think they actually have a lot planned for this year. They just haven't said a thing about it. Besides just Halo, because Halo is like their one thing, like Halo and Tomb Raider 2. Yep. But man, they really have not announced anything. So I think they actually do have something like up their sleeve.
There's got to be something coming, because there's no way they're gonna sit back and just let everything else slide.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but so that'll kind of wrap us up here for episode 6 of the Darksliders podcast. We will of course be back here next week, Monday-ish. This one's releasing a little late, but. Please make sure you follow us on Twitter at Darksliders_pod, YouTube, Darksliders podcast channel, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever else you happen to find podcasts of varying quality. But yeah, thanks guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.